Ladies and gentlemen, today is Tuesday, March the 3rd, 2026. Welcome to Uncle Joe Has Something to Say. Let me tell you something. This past weekend, the world tilted on its axis. The United States and Israel launched a massive coordinated military campaign against Iran, killing Iran's supreme leader, Khamenei, in the opening salvo. Since then, Iranian forces have struck back hard. Iranian drones hit the British RAF Akrotiri base in Cyprus, struck a luxury hotel in Dubai and set it ablaze, targeted the U.S. Embassy compound in Riyadh, causing fires, and perhaps most alarmingly, the Revolutionary Guard declared the Strait of Hormuz closed to all vessel traffic. 3 days in, American diplomats are being evacuated from embassies across the Middle East, airports are shutting down, and President Trump is telling us this war is projected to last 4 to 5 weeks, though he warned the U.S. has the capability to go far longer. 6 American soldiers have already died. 3 F-15 fighter jets were shot down in Kuwait by friendly fire. The pilots survived. The irony did not. Let me be direct with you. The question the whole world is asking right now is not about Iran's missiles or its nuclear ambitions. The real question is this: is the world still governed by international law, or is it governed by whoever has the biggest fist? Because if hegemony replaces the rule of law as the organizing principle of international order, we are not advancing, we are marching backward, all the way back to the era of the warring states, where every warlord wrote his own rules, and the common people paid with their blood. Lao Tzu, one of history's most penetrating thinkers, wrote something in the Tao Te Ching that almost no one quotes today. He said, "Those who assist rulers through the way of the Tao do not try to conquer the world by force of arms. For every force there is a counterforce. Where armies march, thorns and briars spring up 2,500 years ago. And here we are again. Now the Strait of Hormuz, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps declared it closed to all vessels. About 20% of the world's daily oil supply passes through that narrow strip of water, and when it closes, every economy on earth feels it. Qatar's state energy company halted all liquefied natural gas production. Saudi Arabia's largest oil refinery was hit by drones and shut down. Dubai International Airport went dark. Beirut is exploding again. Oil prices are surging. Global supply chains are in chaos. This is what happens when international order collapses. It is not only soldiers who die. Everyone pays. On the question of wars and their stated justifications, let me tell you about a Roman general that few people think about today, Scipio Africanus, who defeated Hannibal at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC. Late in life, Scipio's political enemies put him on trial for corruption, misappropriating public funds, they said. On the very morning the trial was to begin, Scipio rose in the forum and addressed the crowd. "Citizens, on this precise day, I defeated Hannibal at Zama. Follow me to the temple of Jupiter to give thanks to the gods." The entire audience abandoned the courtroom and followed him to the temple. The trial was never resumed. The political art of changing the subject at exactly the right moment has a very, very long pedigree. When Netanyahu tells Fox News this war will create peace we haven't even dreamed of, I wonder if Scipio's speechwriter left behind any notes. Elsewhere in the world, Pakistan and Afghanistan are at war with each other. 42 Afghan civilians have been killed in 6 days of fighting, confirmed by the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan. In South Sudan, a massacre claimed 169 lives, including senior officials in the Ruweng administrative area. Africa's conflicts rarely dominate front pages, but look carefully enough, and behind each one you will find the fingerprints of great powers jostling for position. The United States sanctioned Rwanda's military, accusing it of backing the M23 rebel group in eastern Congo. Washington cites the Washington Accords peace deal as having been violated. Which brings me to a moment from the Ziji Tongjian. The Great Chinese Chronicle of History compiled by Sima Guang. During the Warring States period, the reformer Shang Yang introduced sweeping laws in the state of Qin that transformed it from a peripheral kingdom into the empire that would eventually unify all of China. When a prince violated those laws, Shang Yang could not punish royalty directly, so he punished the prince's tutors instead, declaring, when law goes unenforced, it is because those at the top have violated it first. He publicly reprimanded the tutors and had one's nose cut off. The message was stark. No one, not even royalty, stands above the law. The state of Qing went on to conquer everything. In today's international arena, which nations consider themselves above international law? That question, I assure you, is not rhetorical. In Gaza, some rare good news. The Kerem Shalom crossing reopened today for the gradual entry of humanitarian aid, after Israel sealed all of Gaza's crossings on Saturday when the strikes on Iran began. The United Nations had called the closure a man-made famine in the making. A door has opened, which is more than many had dared to hope. President Trump today personally awarded the Medal of Honor to 3 Army soldiers at the White House. Whatever your view of this war, the courage of individual soldiers deserves recognition. In Texas, midterm primary season got underway today. Trump endorsed over 130 candidates across the state, the most sweeping use of his political capital in a single primary yet. On the economic front, 43 states now have gasoline prices below $3 per gallon, the lowest in nearly 5 years. That is a real tangible achievement worth noting. 2 AI highlights now. First, scientists used data from macaque monkey neurons to compress an AI vision model from 60 million variables down to just 10,000, 1,000th of its original size with nearly identical performance. Published in the journal Nature, the researchers say it mirrors how a biological brain does so much with so little energy. A human brain runs on less electricity than a light bulb. Meanwhile, our data centers consume electricity at a city scale. The gap between biological and artificial intelligence is frankly humbling. Second, the Hubble Space Telescope, assisted by AI analysis, may have detected the universe's first confirmed dark galaxy, a massive object that emits almost no light, sitting silently in the cosmos. Researchers call it one of the most mysterious structures ever observed. Here we are, arguing over oil shipping lanes and missile ranges, while the universe quietly hides entire galaxies from us. Perspective, as they say, is a remarkable thing. The medieval English poet Geoffrey Chaucer spent his days as a customs officer at the port of London, counting wool bales and animal hides, and his nights secretly writing the Canterbury Tales. He wrote, "The greatest scholars are not always the wisest men." I find myself wondering what he would make of a civilization armed with satellites, artificial intelligence, and hypersonic missiles that still cannot find a better method of resolving its disagreements. And Roger Bacon, the 13th century English philosopher who predicted flying machines, submarines, and automobiles in the 1200s, was imprisoned by the church for what they called suspected dangerous novelties. A man who was simply right and simply early. His most overlooked line, rarely cited, multiplied experience is worth more than refined reason. All the strategic theory in the world is no substitute for actually learning from what has happened before. For some of today's decision makers, that appears to remain an untested proposition. Ladies and gentlemen, in an age when might has once again begun to eclipse, right? When hegemony encroaches on law, the world does not advance. It spirals. International order must be maintained by international law, not by the size of one's air force. That is Uncle Joe's thought for today. See you next time.